Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, and well, whether it be golden weapons, ancient masks, or shields, LEGO has been doing collectibles in their series for a long time. Arguably pioneered by the Kanohi masks of Bionicle, now pretty much every original LEGO action theme has some sort of collectible to it. Some ex machina where the heroes are forced to quest for in order to collect every single one to unlock some sort of treasure, to stop some ancient evil, or to achieve some sort of quest. LEGO original themes are pretty much built around collectibles nowadays. Of course, there have been a ton of collectibles from LEGO Ninjago, where literally every single Ninjago wave, we get a brand new type of collectible, and that's over 11 years of the theme, so there's so much to see here. But of course, themes even older than Ninjago were doing them back in the day. Stuff like power miners. You had the crystals that you were collecting with all of the different vehicles to stop the rock monsters. Of course, with LEGO Atlantis, you had the fascinating little keys, which you could actually use to unlock different parts of the buildings and eventually journey towards the city of Atlantis in general. Agents had some stuff, Ultra Agents had their app bricks. There have been a wide variety of just completely crazy different collectibles to see, and in this video, we will be counting down what are the top 10 best LEGO collectibles that they have ever made for any of the themes. Now, the way I'll be judging collectibles is on a couple of fronts. The first one is simply, how cool do they look? Are they fun to collect? Did they incentivize me to want to actually collect all of these sets themselves? And really just how do they stand up as collectibles on their own? Number two is, how do they factor into the story? Having cool collectibles is always good, but how relevant were they to the story? Did they actually make sense in their inclusion, or were they kind of just shoehorned into the theme to provide a reason for kids to want to collect all of the sets? And number three is kind of just a combination of these 2 points. Do they actually make sense given their story function? Stuff like, say, the Atlantis keystones or the kind of triangle-like keys that you could actually use make a lot of sense in story, for example, because not only do they look cool, but they also act as actual keys. Whereas maybe something like, I don't know, maybe the Bionicle slugs or the squid firing ammo didn't really make a ton of sense because while there were a lot of differently colored squids, didn't really make a lot of sense to collect them. So there's a bit of a trade-off when it comes to formulating the best LEGO collectible, and we're going to be trying to find out in this video. But of course, this is just my opinion, and I would love to hear yours, so let me know down in the comments below if you agree or you disagree, and of course, if you think I'm missing any collectibles, because I'm sure I'm either forgetting something, or maybe there's something that you thought was a lot cooler than I did. I would love to hear from everyone in terms of what you think, but with that out of the way, I think it's time we jump right into things with number 10. Alright, so coming in at number 10, we have an entry from LEGO Ninjago, and they are the Kitanas from the Ninjago Prime Empire wave from 2020. These are probably some of the most modern collectibles on this particular list, but the reason why I like them is because, to me, what makes a good collectible is that not only do they look cool, they can have a functional purpose in these sets themselves, but they also can be held by minifigures. And this actually checks off all the boxes. Sure, the Kitanas may not have been as story relevant as LEGO probably was intending them to be, because they only really appeared in a few episodes of the Prime Empire TV show, but for the most part, just visually speaking, I really like the design of these. They really tried to combine a ki and a katana, of course, being named Kitanas, and they actually went above and beyond to dual mold these in white and a different transparent color. Now, what was particularly interesting about this is that the Kitanas kind of strayed outside of standard Ninjago collectibles. Whereas we typically would have one particular weapon per ninja, they instead decided to assign each Kitana to a region of Prime Empire, be it Terra Technica and so on. This allowed you to have a story integration to be able to go to one region to collect the particular Kitana that was associated with it, and in these sets themselves, they actually were really well integrated into the builds, meaning that they actually had little bits and pieces of Technic knobs where you could actually stick the keys into and twist them to activate certain functions of the set. Now here's the thing about them. Later on in this list, there is also going to be a very similar concept of using keys to actually interface with a part of the set, and honestly, it was done a lot better in that thing, and we're going to be getting to that, which is why I think this is a little bit lower on the list. The way the Kitanas work is that you essentially stick them into these kind of long-length Technic knobs, which you can also just turn by your fingers, so you don't really need the katanas to actually use them. In fact, it is often easier to just turn them by your fingers rather than to actually try to twist the blade itself, so there are pros and cons to it. It is a cool function to actually be able to integrate into these sets. I just feel like the execution was a little bit lacking. And the other reason why they are only number 10 on the list is that if you asked me what are the most iconic Ninjago collectibles, what are the ones that immediately come to mind? Obviously you've got the golden weapons, you've got all sorts of other different things like the elemental blades and the Jin blade and whatnot. The katanas are not really that memorable, and maybe this is a fault of the story not really portraying them to be as important as they could have been, but they really only appeared in that one season, were never used again, and were only used in a digital world, which meant that their usefulness outside of the specific Prime Empire scope was just not really that good. And that's why, despite how cool they look, and despite how they actually have a function, they're at number 10. But with that, let's move on to number 9. So coming in at number 9, we have, of course, the Infinity Stones from LEGO Marvel. So here's the thing about the Infinity Stones and why they're so low, because nowadays one cool thing that LEGO does is they've included all of the Infinity Stones you need all in one set. For instance, last year's Advent Calendar gave us the Infinity Stones all in one with the Infinity Gauntlet. We also got every single one of the Infinity Stones in a display module for Thor's hammer. We had all sorts of other stuff, so to be completely honest, the Infinity Stones have become a lot less rare because they keep on appearing in random stuff. We get random time stones and stuff like the Sanctum Sanctorum and whatnot, and they really do try to include them in these sets where it makes sense to have them. But if you travel back to 2018, when Avengers Infinity War was first coming out, LEGO specifically was only including one stone in every single one of the sets. No more, no less. So this was a really fun collectible because, just like Thanos, you could be going through your journey collecting them all until you had every single one of the stones, and obviously this was a major aspect to the movie where Thanos was going around trying to collect them one by one, and I just remember the hype around trying to buy all of the Infinity War sets when they were first coming out to just see if you could complete the gauntlet and get all the Infinity Stones. And that is an experience that was unlike anything really that I remember in modern years for LEGO collectibles. A lot of times LEGO does collectibles for their themes and they kind of just come and go, but this was honestly kind of a phenomenon in how a lot of people were really going after the sets and even maybe buying sets they didn't really want just to get the Infinity Stones. Sure, nowadays you can just get an advent calendar and get all of them in one go, but you know, back then we didn't know that was a possibility. And what's even cooler is that all of these stones did come on a sprue of 4, so if you got one of them, you at least had 3 other copies in case you lost it or wanted to trade them, which was another big aspect of collectibles and why these were so successful. Now again, they're a little lower on the list because LEGO did include a ton of them and continues to include a ton of them in a ton of other random sets, which is not a bad thing. I like that LEGO is doing that. However, they did diminish their value and collectability a little bit by doing that, and they also, at the end of the day, are just all one mold, just one different transparent color, and they're really small as well. There are definitely a lot more impressive collectibles later on in this list, which is what brings us to number 8. And coming in at number 8, we have the Crystals from LEGO Elves. Now, the Crystals are really special to me for a few reasons. First of all, LEGO actually introduced a brand new element for these crystals, and they're somewhat similar to the Infinity Stones, but honestly, they just look a lot cooler. You've got a diamond-shaped element which is really useful for just random other building applications, and each one is adorned with a special element that can be placed either on top of the heads of creatures, and each creature that came out in this final wave of Elves sets did have a crystal to be placed on it, or you could take all the crystals and place them into the staff for the main villain, which was a really cool thing to do, and you also had a place for them atop the main villain's lair. So that's kind of 3 different uses you have for the collectibles, which is something I think is really cool. The heroes could pick them up, you could hold them in minifigure hands unlike the Infinity Stones, and the crystals did bring something unique to LEGO in terms of being completely different colors, having specialized prints on them, and also just being a useful building piece in general. Now, I struggled a lot with placing these compared to the Infinity Stones on the list here, and ultimately I decided to go for the Elves Crystals because they only really appeared in those sets. Sure, we still get some Elves Crystals nowadays in modern sets in terms of kind of the opalescent color or satin blue, but we never have gotten those exact colors and those exact prints ever again because of the Elves theme, because that was a very restricted thing to just that theme, and that's why it makes these just a little bit more special than the Infinity Stones, although they are very similar. But with that, we now move on to one of the more unique and innovative collectibles in the form of the Nexo Knights books. So one thing that was very interesting about the first wave of LEGO Nexo Knight sets is that instead of having weapons to collect or artifacts, you had magic spellbooks, and that was something that was really unique for Nexo Knights and played a pretty big role in the story as well. You see, in the main Nexo Knights TV show's first couple of seasons, the main villain Monstrox, who in turn was a book himself, was trying to consume all of these different books to be able to summon more and more types of monsters. Each of these books represented a different facet of his monster legions, and every time he consumed one of these books, he could basically just spit out a whole new breed of lava monsters, which was a really cool thing. Now this had a lot of other tie-ins to it, because LEGO not only had a different type of book released in each of the sets, but they also released a physical Monster Book of Monsters that was actually a life-size human book that you could get at your bookstore and read, depicting all these books and kind of the things that you would see in them, which was a really cool thing for especially kids to be able to see a little minifigure holding a book and then be able to go out and buy that exact book in store shelves. Now, Nexo Knights is a little bit interesting because obviously the main collectibles were the Nexo shields, but I honestly think that they're just alright. The Nexo Knight shields were okay, but they definitely got very repetitive after a long time, and the books are just a lot more interesting to me. They specifically introduced this new book mold for Nexo Knights. It's since been used a lot in Harry Potter and Disney stuff, but it was really cool because every single book had a transparent cover, so you actually had a very nice looking magic book. They had a lot of great applications, even outside of the Nexo Knights theme. Like, you can use these for any sort of fantasy era display, and every single book also came with an exclusive 1x2 printed tile, which again depicted the type of monster that was hidden inside. All in all, the books are something that is completely unique compared to any other collectible LEGO has given us, and I'm just a big fan of the way they turned out because they're just really fun to collect. Sure, they might not be the most exciting collectibles for kids. I mean, maybe kids just don't want to collect a ton of books, which is why they're lower on the list, but I personally think that they're some of the most unique and innovative collectibles they could have done for a Magic and Knights themed series, and they really did work for the Nexo Knights series, and I kind of just wish we got even more of them. But moving on from that, we can take a look at number 6. Returning to Ninjago, we have the ones that started it all, sort of, the golden weapons. So in 2011, when Ninjago hit the scene, we got the 4 golden weapons, and no other collectible, I would argue, has as much story significance as the golden weapons did. You see, the golden weapons were the collectibles not only for 2011, but they were the collectibles for Ninjago Legacy in 2019, rebuilt a little bit differently, and they were also the collectibles once again for Ninjago Crystallized in 2022. So the golden weapons obviously are a very important part of Ninjago lore. They're the weapons that the first Spinjitzu master used to actually be able to terraform the realm, because when he first arrived on Ninjago, it was a realm of all water, ruled by Wojira the Sea Serpent, and he had to essentially use these 4 weapons of creation forged from the Golden Peaks to create land masses and drive the Merlopians undersea. Now, these weapons honestly are a little bit lower on the list because, I'm gonna be honest, there's not really anything special about them. In fact, for the first few waves of Ninjago, the Dragon Sword of Fire, which was obviously a very special looking weapon in the show, was just a standard gold katana, and that was honestly kind of disappointing. It wasn't until I believe the March to May and the summer waves of 2011 when we actually got a dedicated molded golden sword of fire, which looks fantastic. Probably one of my favorite sword molds that LEGO has ever done. It just is a phenomenal piece, and I'm so glad they're continuing to use it in different bits and pieces here in sets, but if you look at the other weapons, it was really cool at the time because LEGO actually introduced a few new parts for Ninjago, the short chain and kind of the nunchuck hilt piece, and of course the piece used to attach the blade for Cole's scythe onto the bar. But now looking backwards, all of these pieces have appeared in other sets. Zane's shurikens are definitely very common, and there was a long period where we kept on getting different golden shurikens. Even when they remolded the piece, we only ever got them in silver a few years later. So the shurikens are okay, but they definitely don't look like how they do in the show. They kind of just look like standard ninja stars. The Scythe of Quakes right now is being built up of pretty common pieces. They've used these pieces a ton in other sets to date, so the collectability factor has diminished a bit, and the same goes for the Nunchucks of Lightning. Now obviously LEGO created new molds for the golden weapons in 2022, but I'm not really going to count those because some of them look really good like the Scythe of Quakes, and others just don't look that good like the Sword of Fire. There was no reason they had to actually actually change the original perfect mold there. So we're just going to be taking a look at the first ones from 2011 here, and while they were very cool to get at the time, there's nothing really collectible about them anymore because they've appeared in so many other sets, and basically anyone could just piece them together nowadays. But moving on from that, we now have to travel quite a few years back in time, all the way back to the year of 2000 in Knight's Kingdom 1. LEGO, yes, was doing collectibles all the way back then, although they didn't really have as much of a strong through line through these sets themselves. There wasn't really a major story significance because, well, there wasn't really a story. This was kind of just for people to collect. But one thing they did that was really cool was creating different silver chrome armor and weapons, and that was something that they did and split it up amongst the smallest sets, which was really nice. They actually put out a series of sets that retailed for $6 back in 2000, which obviously that would be a lot more expensive nowadays. They probably would be $15 to $20 nowadays, but they were $6, and each of these small sets included a specialized weapon. The Knight's Catapult had a chrome sword. The Dungeon had a chrome breastplate. The Bull's Attack Wagon had what was probably one of the most specialized pieces created for this chrome line, which was a chrome shield decorated with the Cedric the Bull emblem. And finally, the Dragon for Cedric the Bull himself, the Dragon Rider set, had a chrome helmet, and that helmet was actually brand new in chrome. In fact, all these pieces were pretty much new in chrome except the armor plate, which had appeared in some pirate sets previously. LEGO doesn't really do chrome pieces nowadays because they're worried the paint will chip off, which is true. If you're not careful with them, the chrome paint will chip off, which is why LEGO doesn't really do them anyways. However, back then, they kind of were just playing around with things, and what was really cool is that if you got all of these $5 to $6 sets, you could actually equip your Cedric the Bull villain minifigure in the full-on chrome armor. From the shield, to the sword, to the helmet, to the breastplate, you could have a fully chromed up LEGO minifigure, which was just something so special, especially for that day and age. It just looked so cool to be able to get all of these specialized pieces together, and it was a really neat novelty for the time because we weren't really used to seeing collectibles having such a major focus in LEGO original themes, and it would only get crazier from there. Just seeing the minifigure decked out in chrome armor is a sight to behold, and that is easily one of the best things in my opinion about the chrome armor and weapons packs for the Knight's Kingdom line, is just how cool they looked when finally assembled. But with that, we can now move on to number 4. And coming in at number 4, we have the Moonstones from LEGO Monster Fighters all the way back in 2012. Monster Fighters was a short-lived theme that depicted a team of monster hunters facing off against some monster villains, classic stuff like vampires and werewolves and swamp monsters and so on. And one thing that was really cool was that every single set included an exclusive Moonstone. These Moonstones were specialized transparent pieces printed with an emblem of each monster that was featured in the set. The werewolf had a transparent orange one with a werewolf face on it, the swamp creature had a transparent green one with his face on it, you've got the vampire one which was trans red, the zombies one trans purple, and so on. You get the gist of it. The cool thing though about this is that they actually all factored into one major play feature. If you purchased the most expensive set and the largest set of the wave until the Haunted House came out, which was the Vampire Castle, you could actually place all of the Moonstones into a specialized ring mechanism into the actual top of the castle itself, press a button, and you have a super satisfying feature where all the Moonstones fold outwards and the main print of the moon eclipsing the sun kind of shines outwards, which completes the very loose story of the theme, which was Lord Vampire trying to cause an eclipse. Later on, Lord Vampire would also cross over with the Alien Conquest and Dino Lines and Pharaoh's Quest to kind of team up to beat the heroes, and this played a part into it as well. That's a whole other story depicted in one of the LEGO Club comics, but overall, just for the Monster Fighters theme, it was a very, very cool thing to be able to assemble all of these Moonstones and to actually have them actually placed into the set itself. Just as very satisfying play feature to see them all ripple outwards. The colors look really cool, it was great to collect them all, and it made collecting each monster minifigure something special because you weren't just getting the monster, you were getting a symbol to go with them. But with that, I think it's now time we move into the top 3 best LEGO collectibles. And coming in at number 3, we have an oldie but a goodie, the LEGO Adventurers Orient Expedition Golden Artifacts. Now, what exactly were these? Well, back in 2003, for LEGO Adventurer's final bout, they released the Orient Expedition line, which saw Johnny Thunder and the main cast of LEGO Adventurers traveling to the Himalayas, to India, to China, and all sorts of different places in the Orient to collect these golden artifacts, all culminating in what is probably the coolest LEGO individual mold dragon they've ever done, which was the majestic, part chrome gold, part metallic gold and black, all specialized dragon for the LEGO Adventurers 2003 line. This dragon is a sight to behold and is easily one of the most sought after dragons ever created for LEGO. Now, specifically for this dragon, they introduced a brand new molded tail, which was a really ornate detail to be added to the back of the dragon there. They also had a brand new molded chrome gold headpiece, which was used for the top of the dragon, and all around you can just see the amount of effort that went into actually creating this and making it a reality. But that wasn't all, because in addition to that, you also had a chrome golden shield, which in similar fashion to the original Knight's Kingdom chrome sword, this one was also printed with an Orient display. You also had the chrome gold sword and a helmet as well, so pretty much everything was culminating in collecting all of these. Yes, they're very similar to the Knight's Kingdom chrome armor, except that these are chrome gold instead of chrome silver. But the major difference is that, well, this one also has a dragon which is chromed up as well. It's kind of interesting seeing just how similar these actually ended up being to the Knight's Kingdom chrome armor, because you've got the armor piece, you've got a sword, you've got a shield, you've got the same helmet piece, but you also have a dragon, but this time the dragon actually is introducing new molds and is part of the collectibles, being chrome in its part itself. So all of those together made some of the most visually impressive collectibles that LEGO had done to date, even if only basically one of them was a new mold. And moving on from that, we can now take a look at number 2. And coming in at number 2, we go back to 2011 and take a look at LEGO Atlantis. So Atlantis was the follow-up to a lot of underwater LEGO themes were doing back in the day, like Aqua Raiders and Aqua Zone from the early 1990s, but Atlantis was something special because it actually did have a TV special dedicated to selling the story, and they also had these special Atlantis key collectibles. I talked about these a little bit earlier in the video, but the way that these work is that they're specialized half metallic gold painted, half transparent molded pieces which could be gripped by minifigure hands, and each one had an actual function to be used in the individual sets. If you activated the one used for the Squid Gate, you could open the doors to the gate. If you activated the Temple of Atlantis set itself, you could actually cause the statue of the ruler of Atlantis to rise up from the floor. And most impressive of all, if you used the Portal to Atlantis set's keystone, you could place all of the keystones around the portal, and placing them around is just decorative, but by placing one of them in the center and twisting it, you actually had a very satisfying opening portal function, which is something that is just really, really cool to see. This was a feat of engineering when it came out, and they used it once more in a LEGO Elves portal set, funnily enough, also using collectible keys to activate it, which was a very, very similar set, but this was a really cool mechanism during its time. You basically have these curved elements being used in conjunction with each other to create a portal that can be opened, which was just something that was unlike LEGO had ever done. And best of all, what was really cool about these is that they actually required the keys to be turned. You see, LEGO created a brand new mold, which was a turntable-esque piece, which you could turn with your own fingers just fine, but it would not actually activate the mechanism because it wouldn't actually grip the axle unless the key was in place. This is, well, the purpose of a key to collect. You can't actually do anything until you have the collectible. And that is a great example of perfect set integration of kids actually wanting to go out and collect them all to be able to play around with the functions of the set. Now, sure, the thing is that all of the molds are the same. You technically only need one of them to open every single function, but honestly, that's kind of besides the point. That's probably one of the only reasons why this is number 2 and not number 1, is because they are just all the same. But that being said, they were probably some of the best minifigure scale collectibles LEGO has ever done. Such perfect set integration, and they were also really great to have minifigures chasing each other over. You could have the sea creatures holding them and swimming away, or you could have the explorers and divers recapturing them for themselves. And with that, we have now made our way to number 1. And coming in at number 1, this may be no surprise to many longtime viewers of the channel, but I will have to give the number 1 best LEGO collectible spot to the Bionicle Kanohi, specifically the ones from the year of 2001, and I guess going all the way up to 2003 if you really want to look at it. So the Bionicle Kanohi were something truly special, and they were a phenomenon unlike anything else that LEGO has recaptured honestly to this date. So the general gist behind the Bionicle Kanohi was that each of them was an individual mask that had its own powers. While the Toa of Fire could command the element of fire, the mask that he had, the Kanohi Hao, was the mask of shielding, which meant that he could generate a force field around himself. The Toa of Air had the mask of levitation, allowing him to levitate. The Toa of Ice had the mask of X-ray vision, the Kanohi Akaku, and so on. There were, all in all, 12 different unique molded masks introduced in 2001, with whole sets of even more masks being introduced pretty much all the years following, all the way up to 2003. And what was really cool was that the main gist of the story was that not only were the Toa trying to collect the masks and understand the mask powers, but they also could interchangeably use masks if they were able to collect a ton. For instance, Toa-Tahu could go out and find a Kanohi Miru, the mask of levitation, and placing it on his face, he could then now use the powers of levitation and just switch back to the mask of shielding if he wanted to. This was a really cool way to give us so many collectibles in so many different bags because when a Toa places a mask onto their face, it changes color to reflect their element. The Kanohi Bakari, Mask of Strength, would turn white when placed on Kopaka's face, the Toa of Ice. It would turn brown when placed on Pohatu, the Toa of Stone's face, and so on. And this was a really cool gimmick that allowed LEGO to create so many different permutations of these masks. And that was not all, because not only did we get masks for the Toa themselves, we also got masks for the Turaga Elders. So each of the Elders of the island had their own set of uniquely molded masks, which the Toa, mind you, could also use, so you had another set of colors to be used there. The Turaga could also swap their masks interchangeably, which was something that was really, really interesting to see. And even the Matoran, which were given away as Happy Meal toys of all things, had masks in their own unique colors to reflect the Toa's masks, adding 6 more special collectibles to the wave. You also had the main villains of the first wave, the Rahi, using infected masks, which were kind of corrupted versions of the main masks being placed on them to be controlled by the main villain, Makuta Pterodax. All in all, you just had such a large variety of different collectibles, and LEGO definitely really capitalized on this because obviously not only did every single Bionicle set you bought include at least one mask, sometimes even 2 or 3 depending on the Rahi set it came in, but it also introduced mask packs, and these were blind bags and blind boxes where you could just go out, purchase masks, and hope to get them. Also included in these were special limited edition gold and silver masks, obviously that ups the collectability as well. For special events overseas, they gave out copper versions of specific masks. For Legoland California's opening, they gave out transparent green versions of the Mask of Levitation. The collectability of the masks was unparalleled compared to anything we have seen of LEGO to date. And that was definitely one of the most exciting parts of the Bionicle story back in 2001, was watching the Toa go on quests around the island of Matanui to collect these tribal masks, but also being able to go out and collect them themselves. And of course, since you were only collecting each different one for the different colors, there was no easy way to, well, feel in the bag which color you're getting, which really added a social aspect to the collectability, where friends were encouraged to trade with each other and really tried to make these masks a phenomenon. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, Bionicle drifted away from collectible masks after 2003. After putting out the final mask packs for the Nuva masks, they kind of just stopped doing them, and instead they focused on collectible discs and collectible ammo packs and squids and of all things, and honestly that was where the collectability factor of Bionicle really died down. I don't understand why they didn't just continue to do Kanohi mask packs, because I certainly feel they would have been a lot more useful than a lot of the just random colors of ammo stuff that we got in the future. And one of the other really cool things is that obviously you don't have to just place them on the Toa or main characters. These were really great to encourage people to build their own characters and build their own Toa and their own OCs in the world of Bionicle, because every single mask was a unique character's face, and that meant that you could just create your own things out of these particular collectible pieces. LEGO has never done anything like this to date. There has never been such a great integration of collectibles with story, with play, with being able to create your own mocks out of it, with set functionality. The Kanohi masks of 2001 check off all of the boxes. You even had a fighting game, which I didn't even mention, where part of the game was to knock your mask off of your opponent's face by using gear functions. So you've got all sorts of every type of play rolled into one here. and I certainly hope that LEGO will be able to do something like this again in the future. But for now, this is, in my opinion, the best LEGO collectible that they have ever made throughout the entire history of the toy line. Alright, and with that, we have summed up my personal pick for the top 10 best LEGO collectibles that they have ever made. Of course, this is just my opinion, and I would love to hear yours. I will say, for example, this was an incredibly hard list to tailor down, because LEGO has honestly done so many cool collectibles over the years. From the Nexo powers of Nexo Knights, to the Moonstones of Monster Fighters, to even the Infinity Stones from LEGO Marvel, LEGO has done collectibles at an increasing rate over time, and it's been really cool kind of tracking the history of different LEGO collectibles, arguably starting off with Bionicle. There were even a couple before that with the Throwbots and Robo-Riders, and just looking at the journey of LEGO collectible pieces to today and seeing what worked, what didn't, and what are the best of the best. I hope you enjoyed this video, and do let me know in the comments below which ones were your favorites when you were a kid growing up. What were some of your favorite collectibles to get? What motivated you to try to hunt down all the sets to get a full set of collectibles for? Because that is quite an accomplishment. Obviously, that's the goal of even having collectibles in original LEGO action themes. And of course, I would love to hear all of this from you. But with that, I think we've summed up this video. Let me know down in the comments below, of course, what you thought of it. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks so much, and bye for now.